My fellow citizens of all nations, The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. Now, this work is about how human being transforms into a vermin. And seemingly it's the main point of the story, but I don't think so. I think that author is just using this transformation as a tool to show what family is like. He criticizes the family. He criticizes the general human life. And he criticizes how everything in human life is conditional. And how one is respected only if he is a provider. And how fragile the family is and how absurd it is to sacrifice yourself. So the author uses this transformation of his to show how life changes, and at the same time criticize these institutions, the family institution, this modern human life, and etc. And we're going to go through right now and explain in detail what I mean by that. Now, Gregor is a provider. He basically his family situation is very bad because his parents make very lot of bad decisions and etc. And he basically decides that as a man it is his responsibility to take care of the family, and he does the great job of it. Basically, he sacrifices himself. He works in a job that he hates, and he don't like his boss, and in fact hates his boss and etc. But he is fine with it because he wants to provide for his family, and he just don't provide for his family. He just does excellent job. He basically provides a big house for the family members, the servants, and at the same time, he thinks about that his sister has a great talent, and he wants to provide the appropriate education for his sister. And obviously, he don't has his own life. He just constantly, every time he's home, he looks at where his next train station, where to stop next, just to work. Basically, he's just a slave, and he enslaves himself willingly because this is how he looks at it. It's a very honorable character that thinks that it is his responsibility. Like he couldn't simply rented a smaller house and instead of maids be like do it yourself, etc. No, he just does a very great job. He's such a great human being. Generally, he does what he's supposed to do as a man, and that's what happens. But suddenly, out of nowhere, he transforms into this horrible looking vermin. And everybody is freaked out. His boss basically sent someone into his house from his work to check what's happening, why he's missing the train, etc. This is how much he is enslaved and hates this job. And basically, he discovers that then once people discover that he transformed, that person runs away and everybody is in panic, and his own dad almost kills him. And for a couple months, his sister just barely takes care of her. And once, basically, parents generally hate her, and the only one that supports her is his sister. But later, all those things change. Basically, he is hated. Now his mother can barely see him and loses consciousness when he sees how Gregor is physically, because everything is conditional, and nobody stops and thinks. And also, family's financial situation goes south because obviously the one that provides actually transformed into a vermin. So who can provide now? And nobody in this work pauses and thinks about, oh, what a great job Gregor used to do for us. He used to do all those things without us even noticing it. Like, because these people are so out of touch from reality that, and Gregor does all those things for them that they don't even know those things. And obviously their financial situation goes south and everybody has to work now, every single family member. And like they start to resent him so much and resent Gregor to the point that basically they will starve him to death, essentially. And there they celebrate that fact that he's dead. And at that moment you think about, if between his, as an example, like his sister, and for example, the Gregor, like if the spot's been like changed, and if his sister were to transform into a vermin, like Gregor would not let her to starve to death. Like he would, everybody can tell during the work that he would take care of any single family member if it happened to them. But while it happens to him, he's essentially starved to death. And at the same time, basically his family is utterly useless and they're based on delusions. Basically, they will starve him to death and they will transform his room into a garbage place. Basically, that is worse than a garbage can probably in modern times. And it's a dirty place and etc. And they don't care about him at all. And he's starved to death. And nobody stops him to be thankful of the Gregor. And at some point in the beginning, you feel hatred toward this type of family. What type of family is this? But at the same time, you realize that everything is based on conditional, and then the family is an overvalued word. Not all family is a family. Like most of the time, family sucks, and it's a horrible thing, and very very well, it's a great thing for people. Because again, everything is conditional, but at the same time, you get angry at Gregor. Why? Because he's such a fool. Serious, like Gregor is such a fool. Why is enslaving himself for other people? And he's doing more than great job. But he could have been much more smarter. He could have gotten smaller houses with cheaper and etc. And be like, hey, I'm the only one that provides and etc. But no, he enslaves himself. And he don't think about his life at all. Like he don't reward himself and etc. And he's such occupied by his work because he has to work extra hard for everything. Because not only he has to provide for him, but he has to also pay for the debt. And by the way, it's mentioned there that he's doing it for his sister especially. Because he kind of has this special feelings toward this. He's a very, very caring brother, generally. Basically, it's mentioned some sort of a deal between the boss and the sister. Maybe it meant some sort of a marriage or something like that. Who knows? But it is hinted there. And the thing is that why does he do that? Like, why do you want Gregor, to provide for yourself, take care of yourself? Like, why are you enslaving yourself like this way? Like, if you don't respect yourself, why do you expect respect from others? And it's such a thing, but especially how father behaves. Like father literally tries to kill him in the second part, and but basically his mother saves him that once, in the second part of the work. And it's especially mentioned how he felt a great pride that he was able to provide a life like that in such a nice home for his sister and parents. Like he felt great pride in that. But he especially mentioned is he felt great pride once things go south. He noticed how things got worse for their basically parents and family generally. And he was proud that he could provide such great care, but they don't care. They are like, essentially, it reminds me of it doesn't matter what you used to do for us. Like, what are you doing right now? It doesn't matter, the past doesn't matter. Now, what are you doing now? So, this is what it happens, and there's this moment, by the way, once there, that basically the Gregor is to be a lieutenant in an army, and there's a picture of his sword in his hand and carefree smile on his face, etc., and how much respect and honor his uniform basically bears, his specific job, basically thing he has at that moment, and how much respect he has. Like he remembers this thing once, tries to and once family members decide to take everything out from his room because they're assholes, and he tries to protect this one picture and this. So basically, how he is disrespected by these people, and nobody cares what he used to provide. It's about what are you providing right now. But it's also Gregor's fault. Like he enslaved himself. Now this is very interesting. Her hands behind her father's head, begging him to spare Gregor's life. It's just in the second part when they essentially try to kill him, and the mother begs not to kill him, etc. So his value as a human being was while he was providing for this family, and once it ends, done. And now, what is his work life? His work life is pathetic. He does the job he hates because he thinks that it is his some sort of a responsibility to do all those things. Why? He should not have done it. He should have lived his life instead of taking care of the debt of his parents and etc. And it is he is so occupied by his responsibilities that he doesn't even know his family. Like he don't know his family at all. He's delusional about them. And what is amazing is, regardless of how what type of situation is, like he is so calm all the time. Like he never gets mad. Like he's some sort of other. He's not only he's not his physical view, but he's some sort of a thing. He's otherworldly in that sense, because not once he gets like outraged and anger and so no, he just dies and just starved to death by his family members, and everybody is happy once he dies, and his family members are so happy once he dies, and they start to smile and have a life, and you also understand them as well. And so you, like, at the end of the novel, at the end of the work, like you are not angry toward anyone, like just as a reader you just understand, but at the beginning you kind of feel anger toward different you feel kind of anger toward the Gregor, then the family, then this thing like, then the work life is enslaved work life he has. You feel anger toward this people that employ him, etc. But all those things that goes away, and just at the end when he dies on the starved to death on that, like you just understand, and you are not really angry toward anybody. You just realize those things, and the how well author used this experience to just show us what it's like to be a vermin. Not only that, but mostly to show us what is the family and what is these institutions of life we are given, like, or how he sacrifices himself, and generally this is what this blind sacrifice brings. Definitely not gratefulness or something like that. And also what the family is like. It is very well shown, especially how pathetic that father figure is. It just reminds me of Katsi Adam and the Georgian work written by Georgian. Basically, it's about a pathetic human being that's, and just this family just reminded me of the family of from this work generally, because they are so in that moment once they have this guest, basically people they rent rooms to, like they treat them as their masters when they, like, they're so naive and inexperienced, etc. And this at the same time shows how good of a job Gregor used to do for them, and this is a testimony of that. It's many times shown. And so, like, especially who was a mermaid, like could at last they have shown some respect? Like they transformed his room into a like garbage can essentially, and they starve him to death. And you can obviously tell that if the places were to be switched to any family member, like the Gregor would not starve and last them to death and would take care of them still, regardless, because this is his mindset. He's a provider, and that's why he's a stupid at the same time, and that's why he deserves the respect. But he don't get that respect. But we respect him obviously for that. But at the same time, it's how stupid it is, and how it sucks. Like how family, how useless, how fragile, how delusional this loving and caring family is. The only good person in this family, like, basically, and you cannot even blame the sister, and you cannot really blame the parents. It's not nobody's. I don't think it's nobody's fault. Like, it's if anyone's Gregor's fault to me, because he should have known. He should have known. She should not have been this blind. Like, he should have known that his family is just a privileged. They don't have privileged individuals that they don't even realize how much he works for them, and they don't have any respect and appreciation for him at all. But also, it's understandable how modern life is just so hard, and it's especially so hard when you are this stupid. How his family members are so stupid, and then you can see how stupid they are in the moment. Basically, those three gentlemen that come as guests to rent the place, like that's a very weird moment, by the way. That also is used to show that this how, to me, it's like, this is how I see the author try use that moment to to show us how the family is useless and how everything is conditional, and especially the man. Like the man is valued if you provide as a man. I mean, as a provider generally, and how is the man is the provider, and what is it there, and it's it shows it very well how this family is worse than any, like you shouldn't even be calling it you shouldn't Gregor shouldn't even calling him family. And there is this moment when her sister basically plays this violin or whatever, and Gregor comes out of his room in form of vermin. Like, and he, in his mind, he just wants to cheer his sister, and like, oh, I want to show my support to my sister. Even in his condition, he thinks about her and wants to support her. And this is when the sister starts to beg them to essentially kill him. And sister and father, basically, this daughter and father, and the mother agrees without just saying anything. Just begs them to kill him, and how the guests are outraged. And also that behavior when Gregor died and the father comes out and tells those gentlemen to just leave the house, it's a very weird moment. Like, why does he not does it before? It's kind of as if they brought these people there to give themselves some sort of a reason to kill this Gregor, who transformed in a vermin and has no value for the family at all. So it's a very that part is also a very, very suspicious moment. And yeah, really, the author used this experience to show us the family, the work life, and show us the both sides. And you cannot really can't even really blame anyone for it, but it just represents it. Like, if more than anything, it's specifically focused on the provider role of his. What is the family here? The family, right? This type, you better be like don't have anything rather than have this type of family. He could be like, and you think about like if he was a very selfish person, he should have been selfish, Gregor, and took care of himself way more. Like, what type of life would be able to afford for himself instead of doing all those things? And he's clearly stressed out. He lacks sleep and etc. But all those things are just ignored by him, and nobody cares about them. Neither those friends and colleagues he cared about in a job. Neither of them come to support his family, etc. Nobody cares. Nobody simply cares. And overall, it just shows that only you care for yourself, and you should care for yourself. And if everybody if everybody to take care of themselves, like the world will be a better place. Like, and at the end, you have your best interest, and you should have your best interest in your mind because nobody cares for you. And at the same time, life can end any moment, or at any moment you can die. And I mean, it just shows that he sacrificed himself for what? For enslaved himself for what? Like, just to think about it and what he got instead as a return. What he got. That's like it's such an amazing job. The author does such an amazing job to demonstrate those things as well, and using this example. Simply great, and definitely it's worth to think more about this thing, analyze the thing. Like, if he took care of himself more and he lived his life instead of he was stressed out by his work. He was super tired, like sleep deprived, etc. All those things, but he was just so much engrossed in this thing to provide and enslave himself. And what he got instead, and it just shows that you should care for yourself. I mean, and the author simply just amazing job to demonstrate all those things. And if you like, it would be great to at the same time share what you think about this thing. Like, do you look at it this way as well? How would you analyze this experience of the Grigor?